Thank you for extending the age group of our family. It's wonderful to have all of you here. Robert Arton, April Helen, Martha Savatola, Mrs. Peace, Ted Wayne, who provided all these children's books, Sarah Blackstock, even though she wasn't here, for ongoing guidance in our children's programming. Everybody who envisioned a bigger role for children and for teens and for families and how we can better serve them. Thank you for pushing to make this a reality. To our guests from other nations, whether you crossed an ocean or a border, thank you for the extra effort to be here. It's increasingly difficult to travel internationally, and a number of our registrants had to cancel at the last minute because they couldn't get visas. So it's really meaningful to us that you would travel such distances to be here in person when Zoom makes it so tempting to stay home. Thank you very much. Huge shout out to our musicians for plugging all your gear, missing social times to get the rehearse, for sounding so good that you literally elevated our hearts and minds and our souls into bliss. Your music and your gift blessed us. Thank you very much. To all of you who brought goodies to the bookstore, thank you for creating them, for packing them, lugging them, shipping them, and presenting your work so beautifully. That store was magnificent. We are really inspired by what you shared. And Brett St. Denny and Rick Lyon, you were tireless in coordinating it all. So thank you, all of you, for creating such a beautiful store. I don't want to overlook our behind-the-scenes efforts of Joseph and Dedrick and Michael Bain, who made it possible to be seen and heard here and everywhere our live stream traveled this week, which was far and wide. They hardly left this room. They went without food, without sleep, sometimes even without bathroom breaks. I'm oversharing. To be here for whatever was needed in this hive of activity. Thank you three very, very much. I didn't mention Jeff Thies in that because he did a lot more than behind the scenes for the audio visual. He did all the behind the scenes for the registration, and pretty much like Ken Kaiser is ubiquitous. He's kind of everywhere doing everything. He gets his own special round of applause. To those of you who lent us your stuff, Dan Macias, for tons of professional audio equipment. Our musicians brought their own things. Joseph was going to go home and get his own Yamaha keyboard when we broke the piano and send those keys to fuse in with eternity. 12 people brought their own projectors and then so generously just left them in the workshop room so that random unknown people could use them, but it saved us from having to rent all of them. Thank you all very much for your generosity. I think all this clapping counts as a workout. Trudy and Eric Cooper, I have to say, for conceptualizing and executing with straight faces, the costume party, the skits, the happy dream cult identities, your creativity took us to new places. I think none of us had nightmares. It was good, but they are out of this world in many ways. And I was thinking last night, I hope they don't get pulled over and a cop doesn't like search their car. I can't even imagine what that looks like. To our donors who kicked in extra money for scholarships, they contributed to the silent auction, you contributed gifts, you contributed extra money, you paid perhaps a tad more than necessary for certain items. Thank you for your generosity. Those extra funds made this conference possible for more people, and it helped us keep it free for kids. Carol, oh boy. You kept it real. You made it light, you made it fun, you kept it moving. Thank you. It was really a joy. To all of you, the graciousness of your love-saturated souls left an impression on the people who work here at the Oakbrook Hilton. I have heard a number of comments about how nice our group is, even if we're a little weird, and how easy it was to work with us, and they hope we'll come back. So thank you. We have left something behind that we don't know of its value yet, but I think it's a seed.
I know I saw bolting out the back door when Eric got up on the table.
Yeah, if you missed Eric Cooper on the table last night, I think there might be some pictures. To our planning team, Lara Amix, Leela Dogim, our conference chairs, Dr. David Schlunt, our program chair, Ken Kaiser, the chief of organization, oversight, and our safety net, Sally Annabella, who made sure no one was forgotten or overlooked, from the details to how to support musicians, vegetarians, vegans, people who want to do yoga. She also was the maker and reviser of that beautiful colored chart on the back of your program. Jackie Corey, Trudy Cooper, Andrea Barnes, the hospitality, the snacks, the goodies, planning all those treats we kept discovering out in the hallway. There were a lot of hands involved in making sure that the details of the conference happened. Leela, Lara, Ken, Sally did a heroic job of keeping it on schedule for the better part, and on schedule and on pretty much on budget, for the better part of almost a year, week in and week out, zooming to make sure that this week would be one of fulfillment and nurturing and relaxation and love. And you just did an incredible job. Thank you. Everybody's too tired to take a victory lap, but you can take one mentally. I have some personal remarks I'd like to share with you, my hopes and dreams. Yes? Absolutely. I'm so sorry to overlook that. Did you all hear that? Did you all hear that? He said, please don't forget to thank Gard and Bobby and Carol for leading the pre-conference spiritual retreat and the morning worship. Even if you weren't here for the pre-retreat, the peacefulness and the way they set the day every day made a profound influence on the entire conference. I'm sorry to have skipped over you. All is forgiven. When we opened the conference, we talked about 100 years ago. The beginning of this all, we talked about 50 years ago and our dedication to becoming a diverse and global organization. And an organization that was open and welcoming to every one of God's children. Now we're looking ahead at what the next 50 years might hold for us. I believe the Urantia movement is going to reach its tipping point, probably sooner rather than later, a point when it will seem like suddenly The whole world knows about this revelation. Most of us pray for this day, expecting it will be some kind of time of enlightenment, like, oh, finally. And for some, and for many, it might be, but I also believe for us, it will be a time of controversy and great testing. Are we ready? Right now, the perceptions of the Urantia community suffer from a self-inflicted wound. That wound is our split. It's a fracture that occurred about 35 years ago. The fellowship and the association are in a damaging competition. It's wasteful to duplicate effort and compete for donors and volunteers, and some of you find yourselves caught in the middle, and I'm sorry about that. It's demoralizing for those of us who have read and been inspired by the Urantia book to look around and wonder, how can we expect to transform the world when we won't transform ourselves? It hurts our credibility to hold on to pettiness and resentment. No one can truly read and understand even part of the Urantia book and think that those qualities are harmonious with God's plans for us. When I go down this path, people often quote me the part of the book that talks about spiritual unity and not uniformity. I'm not talking about spiritual uniformity, not for a minute. I don't think anybody can look at the diversity of expression and service in the fellowship and think for a second that we want uniformity. It's absurd. When I go down this path, some have said to me, we need to just wait for the old guard to die off. I don't mean Guard Jameson, I mean the old guard. The older generation. I reject that response as passive and a little lazy. We're supposed to do the hard work. Why would we just wait it out when there's a bigger victory waiting for us? The bigger victory is forgiveness. That's the hard work. Forgiving tolerance, enduring peace. I invite you to join me in this pursuit, no matter what it takes, because the strong seeding of this revelation depends not on our ability to preach the gospel, but to prove the gospel. We've got to walk our talk. We are stronger together. God placed all of us at the beginning of this revelation in the first 100 years, when he knew he would need people that Christy called soldiers of the circles. As these soldiers, it is our job to be the advance team, to see the revelation and nurture it so that the seeds can take root and grow in good soil. We have to be the good soil. We have to cultivate good soil, make hard and barren soil fertile through tolerance and acceptance and friendship and love. Those things are like water and sunlight. They soften the earth. They give seeds a safe place to grow and thrive. We need to be that cultivated, welcoming soil. Unity is attractive. It is like a magnet. It draws people to its cohesive power. This unhealed part of our history is an incredible opportunity to demonstrate that we do walk our talk even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, and we can't fail. Somebody started a petition on change.org called Choose Urantia Unity. If you would like the fellowship and the association to pursue organizational unity, I hope you'll sign it. I'm going to. And send a strong message to the leadership in all the organizations that it's time to reach for higher, better ways of living. We're leaving here after an incredible week and going back to what Andrea called the mud ball. I hope you will take the nurturing strength from this conference, the insights we've gained from each other this week, and keep changing the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, baby. That's it. That's where it's at. Thank you so much. Thank you for that message. Ah, it does our hearts good, does it not? And now I am pleased to introduce our last plenary speaker, the beautiful, the handsome, the wonderful Gary Deinset. Come on up here. Woo! Well, been quite the week, and you are the last plenary speaker. And I understand that you're going to kind of sum up everything for us, the whole 3 themes.
Well, I've never really been able to sum up anything. I mean, I can barely balance my checkbook.
I don't know, Gary, you know, expectations are really high because you are the only plenary speaker ever to have won 2 Emmys. 2 Emmys! What a feat!
It wasn't in public speaking.
No. Well, what was that like to win 2 Emmys? Tell us a little bit about that. Because I've never won any.
But, I'm doing a talk today on Invisible Made Visible. I had an Emmy experience where the visible was made invisible. And what happened is the pattern's the same, whether it be New York or LA. There's a hotel nearby the theater. New York was Radio City. In LA was the Dolby Theater. And the Renaissance Hotel, they were having a cocktail hour, and there's a red carpet that goes directly from the hotel to the theater. When people are coming out, there's not much press going down the street, but when they turn on Hollywood Boulevard, there's towers, press and things like that. Well, one time I saw these 2 women who were, one was taking pictures. I could see just had the camera glued to her face. And then the other one was, I'd say, a lookout. They looked something like an umpire and a catcher in baseball. But so she's taking pictures, and the other one, the lookout said, "Oh, here's Oprah, here's Wayne Brady," or something like that. And make sure you get them. So I turn the corner, and this woman's ready to take a picture, and she goes, the lookout lady goes, no, he's nobody.
Oh, Gary, come on. You're not nobody. Wait, I think that's a double negative. So you are nobody. Yeah.
Well, I'm here to right the wrong.
All right, good. Let's have a hand for Gary Dyson.
You know, a few months ago, I was asked to be your guest speaker today, and I was honored to be asked. And I'm truly grateful to be with you all here today. So when I received the invite, I immediately said yes, with enthusiasm. And then I asked, what do you want me to talk on? What's the theme of the conference? And they said, living the teachings, heart, mind, and soul. And then I thought to myself, oh crap. It's like, what could I possibly say to you Ranch Book readers that they don't already know about living the teachings? And especially something so personal as one's heart, mind, and soul. So in putting this together, I decided, first decision was no shoulds. I don't know about you, but I hate shoulds. I run from them. Would you believe a distant relative once said to me, Gary, you should get a new jacket. You've been wearing that same jacket at every Thanksgiving for the last 20 years. And actually, we're having a difficult time trying to figure out which Thanksgiving it is when you're in the picture. So, now the joke at my expense didn't bother me because I give it, so I've learned how to take it. But the should sure did. As soon as I heard that word should, I said, hell, I'm going to be wearing that jacket every Thanksgiving, every Christmas Eve, every Easter, Rosh Hashanah. I'm not even Jewish. So I promised no shoulds, so no shoulds, but in my attempt to tiptoe around the shoulds, my talk may seem to be a little unorthodox, but I think that's already happened. The horse has already left the barn. Do you remember those, when you were a kid, those mix-match jokes? It's like, what do you get when you cross something with something else? So here's an example. What do you get when you cross a cow and a detective? You know the answer, go ahead, jump, yell it out. A stakeout. Wait, there's more. What do you get when you cross a caterpillar and a parrot? Walkie-talkie. Yeah, I just want to let you know I looked about 100 of these things, and these are the best ones. But my personal favorite is, what do you get when you cross a cow and a duck? Wait for it. Cheese and crackers. It still brings a smile to my face. I mean, I was roaring at 5 years old, but... So yes, I will stop. I know how to take a hint. But, and you're probably wondering where I'm going with all this. You know, I'm beginning to think they put me on last so everybody wouldn't leave if I was the first one. No, there's a pattern here. The act was a response to a relationship. What was created couldn't have been accomplished without the other. And the result is now reflective of the parts involved. What was made invisible is now made visible. I know this is sort of a long way to the point, but. So I thought I'd up my game. I thought I was doing pretty good with farm animals. So I thought I would try 2 personalities. And just for the fun of it, I thought I'd cross myself with God. I don't suggest it. It didn't work. It just got too complicated. But I wasn't ready to give up after the first try. So I thought I would try something simpler, like just crossing our names. Let's just start there. So you have God and Gary. Now, one thing I do have in common with God that most of you don't, that our names begin with the letter G. So G will be first and foremost, right? Now, there's too many vowels to make sense of anything, so I took one out of each, and then I sort of mixed them up, and then I added some like spice, some salt and pepper, so to speak. So, drum roll. What do you get when you first start with Gary? God. What can I say? You're welcome. No, but seeing is believing. Is God here, or he's never going to talk to me again? Well, I think in living the teaching, it wouldn't hurt that sense of humor. Or just not taking yourself too seriously, which that has never happened to me. So is it seeing is believing, or is it believing is seeing? And I can understand how people can see something and create a belief. I could also understand how somebody with a deep belief in something can see something to come into focus. And then there are those who can't believe in what they're seeing. It's like, for example, we just saw a walkie-talkie, but I don't think there's anybody in the room here that thinks that came from a caterpillar and a parrot. Right? Just check. So, but I think both sides would agree that there are some things we can't see, but we know it exists because of its effect on what we can see. But I think there's even a greater belief here that both sides would agree on, and that's believing in the possibilities. So, fortunately for us, we have the Ranch book, and the revelation of the adjuster and supremacy probably gives us a better feel than most of the potential of each one of us, ourselves and everything else around us. So I would think that living the teachings, you'd had to think outside of the box. You had to believe in the possibilities. And just for a footnote, if you can get cheese and crackers out of a cow and a duck, anything is possible. That's it, no more farm animals. That's at the end of that segment. I promise I won't do any more of that. Well, David Marta Elders had a house in Darien, Connecticut. It was right on the Long Island Sound. And you'd be able to stand on the deck and you look out at the periphery of the property. They had these marshes that were just filled with wildlife. And of course, the Long Island Sound was behind them. And I'm standing on this deck looking at this beautiful view, and I have Steve Dreyer standing next to me. And Steve goes, he says, once he saw a bird here that was obviously not from this area. And then he paused for a moment, and he said that he didn't have to see where the bird came from to know that that place existed. And then, in true Steve Dreyer form, he just walked off and left me to deal with the possibilities of what he just shared. So something you couldn't see was made visible by its relationship to what you could see. And again, this couldn't have been accomplished without the other. It's sort of reminiscent of, being in this world and not of it. Or like what Jesus said to his ordination sermon, that you are no longer men among men, but the enlightened citizens of another heavenly country. So to follow Steve's thinking, if you could look upon one of those men, you wouldn't have to see the heavenly country to know that it existed. Which says to me that you don't have to prove that God exists once you become reflective of that reality. So I would think that teachings, living the teachings, heart, mind, and soul, has to be reflective of who and where it came from. Steve was not only a valuable friend, he was a mentor to me. Many times, I find myself in having to make a decision, and I wouldn't have to follow my adjuster or the spirit of truth. I could just say to myself, what would Steve do? and that was enough. I mean, Steve was imperfect like the rest of us, but any imperfections he had often became clouded by his God-like. And that's something you could see. Do you remember when Jesus said to Philip, when you see me, you've seen the Father? Well, imagine if they saw you. It's very possible. Do you remember when Jesus again ran into the man who wasn't ready yet for human salvation, and he needed more time? Or if he lived with us, we might, by our lives, show him the Father in heaven. So by our lives, we can show the Father in heaven. We can make the invisible visible. Now, what do you get when you cross a truth seeker and a truth giver? Well, the book tells us, result is a great and liberating enlightenment born of the experience of new truth. Now, I never told Steve that I thought of him as a mentor. It was just the nature of our friendship. But there was enlightenment born of the experience of new truth. The American Heritage Dictionary defines a mentor as one who acts as a wise, faithful guide. John C. Maxwell said one of the greatest values of mentors is the ability to see ahead what others cannot see and to help them navigate a course to their destination. Bob Proctor said a mentor is someone who sees more talent and ability within you than you see in yourself and can help bring it out of you. Steven Spielberg said, delicate balance of mentoring someone It's not creating them in your own image, but giving them the opportunity to create themselves. So to summarize, the ideal mentor would have to be a wise and faithful guide, someone who not only recognizes your talents and abilities, but can help bring them out. Someone who can see what you can potentially become and then navigate a course to achieve it. And finally, someone who can provide the opportunity and the space for you to create it for yourself. Well, who does that better than God? You know, in my attempt to find a working partnership with God, sometimes it helps me to think of him as a mentor. What I mean by a working relationship is sort of the effort and the skill set that you develop in becoming more God-like. In paper 12, the universes of universes, it says, do not allow the magnitude of the infinity, the immensity, the eternity, and the grandeur and the glory of the matchless character God to overawe, stagger, or discourage you. Easier said than done. And this is why we probably have a difficult time with the first source of seven. But with God the Father, obviously, we have this very father-child relationship. And I think in one of the things of becoming God-like is learning how to love like God loves. And I think that that's what happens in that relationship. But I don't know about you, still having God as your father has been intimidating. But as a mentor, it puts us on an equal playing field. We need each other. We're totally dependent on each other. In a mentorship, it's not only the observing, the doing things, the fun part. It's doing it alongside the person you want to become. God by your side. I love that vision. Excuse me. So what happened when we crossed something with something else? Well, the one was not greater than the other, but the response and the result was. So when you finally fuse with your adjuster, it won't be the father that will just be well pleased. It will be you too. I'm not sure what that's going to look or feel like, but my guess is there will be a great sense of accomplishment. And like Jesus, you become a reflection of that reality. So bear with me as I continue to keep God in this very limited mentorship scenario. But as a mentor, what do you think he does? I mean, he leads. Every good mentor leads. He leads you Godward. God's will was never a demand. Mentors don't make demands. Remember, the Spirit never drives. It only leads. It's just a simple desire to be led by the God who sees what you're truly capable of becoming. And he loves, obviously. He loves by sharing all that he can so that you can begin to become all that you can be. And he creates everything. But so do we. We create music, we create art, we create dramas. We create our own problems and we create solutions. We're innovative. We can create a home, a loving home, with loving people in it. It sort of makes sense to me why we're so hardwired to be creative. Because how could we ever begin to co-create if we weren't creative? Thank God for personality. You know, in my entire work life, I've been paid for my creativity. So it's something that you might think I would know something about. Well, yes and no. A few years ago, I was helping Peter Lawrence stuff some envelopes for our interfaith event. And you know, it doesn't take a lot of brain cells to stuff envelopes. So we had a lot to talk about. So he asked me a question. He goes, so Gary, what are you working on these days? Well, I'm creating some music for a recording project of mine. Then he says, well, do you think you can create something that's never been created before? I was totally thrown by this question. I mean, didn't you hear what he just said? So I quickly said, yeah, of course. And then I think he said, well, then who does it belong to? And I'm thinking, I just told them that I created this thing, it's my project. So just to get out of the conversation, I said, I wrote it, it belongs to me. But of course, Peter's been a longtime friend of mine and also a mentorship in many ways. I don't think I would have ever gone down the interfaith path if it wasn't for Peter. So I gave his words a great deal of thought. Now, I'm not sure if this is the message that he was trying to convey, or even if he was trying to convey a message, but it's the one I walked away with. That creativity is the process of discovery. And what you're discovering is the unfolding of what was always there. What God has created has always been there. It sort of made me think about all the great music that's been created by the same 12 notes. Or all the beautiful art that's been created from the same palette of colors. I mean, what's uniquely ours is the effort and experience of discovering, finding it for ourselves. In an orchestra, I'm not moved so much by what I'm doing. I'm too busy trying to get my part right and pay attention to a conductor. What's moving me are the people, what the people are doing around me. And we're all being lifted up by the whole of what we're all playing a part in. The personal joy for me, in the sense of accomplishment, comes from discovering the greater sum. Living the teachings with your heart, your mind, and your very own soul. It sounds like a soul endeavor. But it's not. What motivates you to live the teachings began with a simple response to a relationship. Could have been your Justin. Could have been your mentor. Could have been all these talented, loving children of God around you. On Paper 101, it says, in the real nature of religion, it says, through the appropriation of the faith of Jesus, mortal man can foretaste in time the realities of eternity. Now, Jesus made the discovery in human experience of the final Father. And his brothers in the flesh of mortal life can follow him along this same experience of Father discovery. They can even attain, as they are, the same satisfaction in this experience with the Father as did Jesus as he was. New potentials were actualized in the universe of Nebadon, consequent upon the terminal bestowal of Michael, and one of these was the new illumination of the path of eternity that leads to the Father of all. So as I mentioned, God leads, he loves, and he creates with our heart, mind, and soul. We can lead in the same way that God leads. We can love in the way we're being loved by God. And we can help create the environment for the unfolding of what was always there. You could probably say Jesus was the perfect mentor. He was wise, faithful guide, who not only recognized one's gifts, but could help bring them out. He not only saw others by who and what they were, but by who and what they were capable of becoming. And he provided the space for them to create and discover it all for themselves. What we can all do this too. You know, it's amazing to me to think that a simple follow me would lead to the illuminated path of eternity that leads to the Father of all. So, you know, as we discover new possibilities, we create new ones. Remember, enlightenment born of that experience of new truth. Potential to love is always there. And the act of loving allows us to discover more of it. In the process of loving more and loving more of, we actualize it. We can illuminate the path. We can lead as we're being led to the Father of all. In paper 2, In the Nature of God, it's a familiar quote. It says, the religious challenge of this age is those far-seeing and forward-looking men and women of spiritual insight who will dare to construct a new and appealing philosophy of living out of the enlarged and exquisitely integrated modern concepts of cosmic truth, universe beauty, divine goodness. Again, this is all of you. You are these far-seeing and forward-looking men and women of spiritual insight, living out with a whole heart, mind, and soul the enlarged and exquisitely integrated modern concepts of cosmic truth, universe beauty, and divine goodness. And when others begin to see a reality in you that was once invisible, they'll begin asking themselves, what's going on around me right now that I'm not taking full advantage of? That's the gift that keeps on giving. And this all began with a simple response to a relationship. What you created with a whole heart, through mind, your soul, in partnership with God, couldn't have been accomplished without the other. By your lives, you become a reflection of this reality. Your branches now bear much fruit. You made the invisible visible. And such a new and righteous vision of morality will attract all that is good in the mind of man and challenge which is best. You know, as I said earlier, I promised notions. It's really all up to you. But again, an absolute, eternal loving Father, a beautiful God, wouldn't have it any other way.
Thank you, Tom Allen, for bringing this song to our hearts and minds many years and many conferences ago. Thank you. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel his mighty power and her grace. I feel a holy rush of angel wings. See smiles on every face. Surely the presence of our God is in this place.
What is the real meaning of the Remembrance Supper? It is a celebration to remember, like in occasions like this, in a conference or every Sunday at church, or in the Christian celebrations, holidays, or is something, a commitment, a consecration that we need to take each day of our lives and renew it each day of our lives. And you know, I talk about renewing it because we have learned during these days how our brain works, how in our limitations of as human beings, we are really very distracted in our minds. When we go back, what we're gonna do after this conference in our daily lives, we're gonna get caught by many things, distracted. So how we can really remember this commitment that we want to do, if we already decided to do, every day of our lives, and how can we achieve that? How can we do it? And remember something.
The affectionate dedication of the human will to the doing of the Father's will is our choicest gift to God. In fact, such a consecration of creature will constitutes our only possible gift of true value to the Paradise Father. In God, we live, move, and have our being. There is nothing we can give to God except this choosing to abide by the Father's will. And such decisions, and more decisions, effected by the intelligent will creatures of the universes, constitute the reality of that true worship which is so satisfying to the love-dominated nature of the Creator Father.
So the question is, how do we achieve this? And we had an example in our Creator's Son, his life. In the last day of his earthly life, he really wanted to show his apostles, but all of us, what is really important, or one of the most important messages that he could give us. He started by washing the apostles' feet to show them his love and show them that there is no preference between them, because there is no preference for the love that he gives to every creature in his universe. So the command was to love each other as he loved us. So I wanted to do this Remembrance Supper a little bit different and invite you to really, sort of a challenge, to commit after this conference for a period of time. Science shows that it takes 8 weeks at least to create a habit. And many of you will say, oh, I cannot commit for 8 weeks, or that's too much. But we just have to start right now, the present moment, the moment that we only have. And it takes only a breath to connect. And in this connection through the breath, we can really be aware. And sometimes we are not able to really love our neighbor. It's difficult. We can love the ones surrounding us, our loving ones. But we are learning to love others, and we must learn to love our enemy, right? We cannot do it ourselves, but there is one who can. So my challenge to you, or my invitation to you, is go wash your neighbor's feet. Not literally. But go around and see what the women and men and children, the persons around you need. And make this commitment to do the Father's will by love. I read yesterday that Remembrance Supper is the believer's symbolic rendezvous with Michael. If we would have him really physically, literally physically in front of us, would we miss this rendezvous? I think not. We cannot see him, but he's there, and he's really with us in this. When we cannot love our neighbor, we can do it through him. So we're gonna go now into closing our eyes and just imagine yourself making this commitment. Visually, really seeing yourself in the ways, your unique ways. How can you reach this possibility of practicing this consecration, of doing the Father's will through love?
Jesus' devotion to the Father's will and the service of man was even more than mortal decision and human determination. It was a wholehearted, whole-minded, and whole-souled consecration of himself to such an unreserved bestowal.
So in this commitment that we want to create in our lives, use any tool you can imagine. You can write this commitment on paper, hang it on your kitchen, on your nightstand, on your car, use a stone in your pocket, a necklace. I heard in one of the workshops that we are physical beings and we need to use these physical tools that could help us. And if we don't have nothing, we know we have the breath with us, a powerful tool, this divine breath. So just imagine yourself, and the challenge is to really do it each day. Renew this commitment. It is important because the way we are really in our physical bodies, we need to do that. Recommit, renew it. So we're going to be here for a moment to stay there with your commitments, and then we're going to go with beautiful music and in this celebration of the Remembrance Supper.
Just as at the closing of what we come to call the Last Supper, there was the singing of the Psalm 118. When it is time and when you hear the words, Alleluia, please join in the singing of them. Alleluia, 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 Alleluia. Join in. Alleluia, Alleluia,
Thanks for the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever. Let the house of Israel say, his mercy endures forever. The right hand of the Lord has struck with power. The right hand of the Lord is exalted. I shall not die. I shall live and declare the works of the Lord.
The stone which the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. By the Lord this has been done. It is wonderful in our eyes.
I can't hear, oh, there, now you can hear me, yes? Okay. Come on, come on. I didn't know there was more. So forgive ta-da, those of you who took my class know what that means. Okay, I didn't know there was more.
Well, we have a montage that some of you are aware of because you've probably seen my son Huck going around taking pictures, and many of you are in the pictures.
Good.
So I was going around taking pictures. So thanks for letting me take your picture, and I'm glad that I can.
When Alice asked me if it would be okay if Huck took some pictures during the conference, I said, of course. He's only 12, he has a budding interest in photography. And I thought it would be fascinating to see how we look through the eyes of a 12-year-old. So we're gonna see what Huck sees in a couple of minutes. We're just getting our technology plugged in, but that's what's happening.
May you be a wonderful photographer as you grow up. You want to keep doing it. Oh, that was great. I believe it is time for the team to come up and so that we can appropriately thank them and they can say their goodbyes. So team, please come up and take the stage. Come, come, come. Come, come, come. Come, come, let's hear it for the team as they come up. Ken Kaiser, Jack, Sue, Judy. Bobby, up, everybody on stage. You might have to talk on the podium for the microphone.
Where's Jim Johnston? Jim, are you still in the building? So long before we started the 2 years ago weekly meetings, we had a 4 or 5 month small team retreating on how we wanted this conference to be. And what would this conference be? Was our guiding motivation before we even started looking for a speaker, looking for a workshop, and looking for logistics. And Jim Johnston was the wonderful man who led us through what I often felt was silly and ridiculous and pointless until we went, oh my God, here it is. And the underlying thing, the details don't matter, was nurturing God's family. And that was the purpose behind everything. And it only is nurturing because you came here and nurtured us and played with us. Thank you. Thank the whole team. Thank you, guys. Really and truly. And thank you all for coming and playing with us, because it wouldn't have been fun without you.
Thank you. Thank you all. This is the end. Go in peace. Go in peace. There is a lunch. There is a lunch. Lunch is being served. 12:30. At 12:30 lunch is, right? Checkout time is 12 o'clock. Lunch is at 12:30. Oh. It's always that. Always that. There's always then there's that, and then there's that. And then there's that.
It's so sweet.
¿Está en vivo? A ver, el Focus Latino. Necesito tomar esa foto del Focus Latino.